Hi all. Today we are going to see how to launch one Linux web server in AWS using EC2 instance. Okay. So the very first step. So I'm writing down the steps also uh, in this document so that it will be easy for us to track where we are and what we are doing. Okay. So now I'm into management console and I will look for the EC2 service here. The very first step is to create one key pair for this project, and we will be naming the key pair with the naming convention like Linux underscore web underscore the region in which we are doing this lab. So region can be any region. It's not specific, or it's not like it has to be the same region the one I am using currently. So let me change the region first. um, I am opting for Oregon. So since EC2 service is region specific, all the resources that we create under this service is limited, or you can say available for the use only in that specific region. So now I'm in Oregon region, and the very first step is that I'm going to create one key pair, and I'm going to name this key pair as Linux underscore web underscore Oregon, so that once the key pair is available on my system, on my local computer, I can easily identify that this key pair is for which region I have used. Okay, now create it. Okay, now save this key pair. Second step. So the second step would be create a security group, and the name of the security group will be like Linux underscore web underscore sg. The rules for this security group will have http, https, ssh, and this will be for allowed for open anywhere source. Okay, now let's do the second step. Going through the security group, by default we will have one security group of the default VPC, but we are not going to use this security group, so just rename this so that you can easily identify the default security group. Now, as per the naming convention that we are going to follow, Linux underscore web underscore sg, here also Linux underscore web underscore sg, the VPC will be the same, and in the rules just go ahead and add http, then https, then ssh, and make it anywhere. The reason is that we when we are creating and launching this server, uh, we might be accessing it through any IP address which is not static, which might be changing. Today your IP address might be something else, and tomorrow it might be something else, so you will not be able to access from both the IP addresses. And since you are not aware of the range of the IP address, you are not sure about that, so we cannot go ahead with that. So it's better we go to the anywhere. But in practical, when we do the same thing in our organization, we know that what is the specific IP range for the organization, and we can limit the access by mentioning the IP address here in the custom range. Okay, now create this and give the name again Linux underscore web underscore sg. Done. So this second step is done. Now launch EC2 instance with Amazon Linux AMI. So we'll go to the Linux instances, and from this we will go ahead and launch the instance. In the first step, we'll choose the very first AMI from the quick start, this one. Select this. Second step, just go with the default configuration. Then the third step also, do not change anything, just go ahead with the default configuration. Add storage, go ahead with the default configuration, and add tags, so you can add here this is the Linux instance, and this we are using for the web server. In the configure security group, you can select the security group which we created just now, and then just go ahead and click and launch the instance. So make sure that you are selecting the correct key pair here and launch the instance. It will take some time to get the instance ready. By the time it is coming up, here you can just give the name Linux underscore web underscore server, and by the time it is coming up, let's go ahead and download few applications. So you just need to visit one website, putty.org, and from here just download putty, and these are the binary files. So you need to download the binary file putty.exe as per the configuration of your laptop, 32-bit or 64-bit, and the putty-keygen.exe. So putty-keygen and putty, both exe file you need to download. Once it is downloaded, you will be able to see, and just you can pin it here. So the way I have pinned these two, putty key generator and the putty, both the applications. Once you download and open the applications, it will look like this. Now the very first step, what we will do here, okay, let me write down the third step. Download putty.exe and putty-gen.exe from putty.org. Then next step is to convert the .pm file to .ppk file, and let me show you how it is done. So why we need ppk file? Ppk file is the private part of the key pair that we had created, and this is used for the authentication to the server when we are connecting from Windows to Linux. When we are connecting from Linux to Linux or window to window, when the operating system is same, the .pm file works. Whereas when we connect across operating system, then we need .ppk file. So now let's generate the .ppk file. We already have our .pem file downloaded here. So when we go to downloads, and in the downloads I had downloaded, where is the file? Okay, let me search. This is the file. So let's copy and bring it here on the desktop. Okay, now let's open the putty-keygen, and in the putty-keygen, first thing is that type of key to generate. Select SSH1 RSA, this one, and now click on load. So we will be loading the .pem file here. So on our desktop, when we search for Oregon, it's not there, then Linux, okay, here it is, open. Okay, so this got uploaded. Now we need to save the private key, so just click on save private key here, yes, and give the same name. So Linux, okay, we will be using the same name the one .pem file is having, but just we make sure that we are not using the .pem extension with this. The reason why we are using the same name, because anyways the extension of .ppk and .pem are different, but we will be easily identifying that this ppk file is for of which pem file. Now let's go ahead and save. And it's done. So now let's go to the instance and check if the instance is running. Yeah, it is running, and now status check is 2x2. Okay, great. Now it's the time to connect to our instance. And if you want to connect to our instance, then we will need the public IP address. Public IP address, and then just come to the putty exe, and here in the host name use your public IP address. Then come to this SSH, expand this SSH. Once you expand the SSH, you will see auth. Do not expand auth, just select the auth, and then you will see one option of browsing the file. So click on browse, and from here you can go to the desktop and look for Linux Oregon.ppk. So make sure you are selecting .ppk file here and open. Now click on open. Okay, the moment you see this security alert, it means the connection is successful. Now it is asking that login as what? So login as EC2, then user. Okay, so here we can see that we are successfully connected to our Linux instance. Okay, now the next okay, let me update the steps here. Convert the .ppk to .pem to .ppk, and then connect to Linux instance using through putty.exe using public IP address of the instance. Okay, now once we are connected, then we need to install the Apache web server to make this Linux server as Linux web server. And to do so, we will be using few Linux commands. So I will be listing out the Linux command here. Okay. So the Linux commands, the first one will be sudo -s. So we will earlier we were logged in as EC2 user, which the user is not having the complete access, but when we logged in as the root user, it means we assume the privilege of the super user. So we'll mention this sudo s for assuming the super user role. Then once we are done with this, then we will be running a command yum update -y. So this will update yum update -y to update the OS packages. Okay, let's see if it is done. No. Okay, it's still downloading. Now it is done. So it's downloaded now. Okay, then we will run the next command, that is yum httpd install sorry, there will be a space in between yum and install. Yum ins this is to install the Apache web server. So httpd is the name we used, service name used for Apache web server. So here we see that the installation is complete, right? To check if the installation is complete or not, what we will do, we will change the directory to /var/www/html, and here we see that we are into var www.html directory. When we install the Apache web server, then the Apache web server creates these directories www and html. Earlier, these directories will not be present unless you install the Apache web server. This confirms that the Apache web server installation is complete. Okay, so cd/var/www/html to confirm the httpd installation. Okay, now next, once we are done with this, then what we can do, we will go and copy this IP address, this one, and paste it here in our URL, and we'll see that we will not be able to see our web page. Okay, the reason is that installation is done, but still we are not able to access the web page of our server. So the reason is that we haven't started the service. So now we need to check the status, service httpd status, and we see that httpd is stopped. It means the installation is done, but Apache is not running on your system. Fine. So what we need to do now, service httpd start. Once you do this and go ahead and refresh, now you can see that the Apache test web server is ready. Fine. Now if you want, and if you check ls, if you do, okay, let me update the list first. So service httpd status to check the status of Apache web service, then service httpd start to check the start Apache web service. Fine. Now ls minus lrt, if you see, there is no file under html directory. And html directory, if you want to see any content, web content in your on your web server, then it has to be inside the html directory. Okay, so let's create one simple file, vi index.html, and here I am giving, this is my web server. Okay, now when I come to this and when I refresh, I see that this is my web server. So my website is working correctly. The, instead of doing it through vi, you can also do it through like echo, then double quote, and inside the double quote you can give, this is my home page, and then echo, and then the content that you want to write in the file, and then just one arrow sign, and give the name of the file, index.html. Fine. This will create a file, and when you do the ls minus lrt, you can see that the file has been created, and then when you go and refresh, you will be able to see the content of the file here in the IP address. Instead of this IP address, you can also use index.html. It will give you the same content. And if you write some other file, or if you create some other file, let's say home, and then when you use home.html, you will be able to see the content. So this is how we create and launch the Linux web server on AWS using EC2 service instances. Okay, so let me know if you have any query, or if you're facing any issue while doing this. Please put your comment inside in the comment box, and I will try to answer that as quickly as possible. Thank you for watching this video.